the embassy has been aware of the fact that an American and Israeli strike is coming for weeks and has been warning London that that strike is coming. And I'm not spilling any state secrets by saying that, because as you point out, the whole world could see the Americans assembling an armada of ships and other military capabilities in the region. So I don't know why ministers seem totally caught unawares.
Labour Cabinet Minister James Murray told us an hour ago that the country had been prepared for events in the Middle East, despite the fact we had no ships in the region when America and Israel launched their attacks on Iran. We're now sending a destroyer there, but it will take days to reach its location. You might suspect that something is going wrong here. If you do, you should read The Blistering Thunderer in the Times today by Ameer Kotehca. He has been a senior diplomat in the Foreign Office since 2015, but resigned this week. He argues in the paper that his department is fumbling and failing. Well, Ameer Kotehca joins us now. I'm delighted to say we can speak. Ameer, good morning to you.
Good morning, Stig. Good to be with you.
It's a great piece. In fact, it's a really good piece in the paper today. It's quite an angry piece, I think. Why have you resigned from the Foreign Office, and why are you speaking your mind now?
Yeah, thanks, Stig. I mean, look, I left the Foreign Office yesterday with a heavy heart, because being a diplomat is what I've always wanted to do. But after 11 years, I decided that, frankly, the system is broken, the Foreign Office is failing, and I need to do my bit to try and fix it. And I can better do that from the outside. But I think, our impotence on Iran at the moment, the Chagos debacle, both of these really were, for me, the straw that broke the camel's back. But they're symptoms of a wider problem.
Tell us what the problem is. You've been in the Foreign Office, you're now out of it. What's the problem with the Foreign Office?
I mean, I think, in essence, we are too distracted by peripheral issues, by insular corporate issues, and we're not relentlessly focused on the key foreign policy challenges of the day. The job of the Foreign Office is to protect British interests, to defend our national security, to advance our prosperity. And often it feels that that's being, we're playing second fiddle to all of the other peripheral issues that occupy the minds of senior mandarins. I mean, I gave an example in the piece of World Afro Day, a celebration for World Afro Day while Kabul was falling to the Taliban. And that is not an isolated example.
So some people would call this wokery. It's a department where things like identity politics and corporate wokeism is more important than actually just everyday virulently pursuing the national interest.
I think that's right. I mean, look, the term woke, people have different views on it, but I do think it's a focus on the peripheral, the insular, the cuddly, the woke, if you want to use that word. This gets in the way of actually focusing on what really matters. And sometimes I think this is all sort of displacement activity, perhaps for a department that feels powerless, rudderless, without the political direction it needs from our political masters. But whatever the reason is, it's not good enough, and we need to get serious about the world in which we're living.
Can you explain, Ameer, why we went about this morning? Trump was building up forces in the Middle East for weeks. He talked about help being on its way. Everyone we spoke to on this programme for literally weeks said, we can't bring all these people this close to that region and do nothing. Something is going to happen. Why weren't we ready for that? Why didn't we have any ships in the Mediterranean or in the Gulf at all? Why aren't we ready to be deployed when needed? Why is the Foreign Office not having crisis meetings from a month ago and coming up with a plan so when it happens, something just actually, a response is immediately put into place?
I think those are all the right questions, Stig. I mean, I have lots of criticisms of the Foreign Office, but here I will actually ride to the defense of our embassy in Tel Aviv, which was my final job in the Foreign Office and where I was until last week. The embassy has been aware of the fact that an American and Israeli strike is coming for weeks and has been warning London that strike is coming. And I'm not spilling any state secrets by saying that, because as you point out, the whole world could see the Americans assembling an armada of ships and other military capabilities in the region. So I don't know why ministers seem totally caught unawares. Perhaps it's because, this very straitjacketed concept of international law which guides Lord Hermer and the Foreign Secretary and Starmer. Maybe they just simply couldn't conceive of us needing to get involved because international law says no, actually, you shouldn't do so. I'm speculating, but I think it's unforgivable that we were so unprepared.
Is there a legalistic approach, the sort of Hermer-esque? You mentioned Richard Hermer's name. He's a name often cited in all of this. When it comes to things like the Chagos Islands, another thing you refer to in your piece, is there a view that the first responsibility is a legalistic one out of the Foreign Office?
I think that's right. And I think, look, international law has its place. I'm not one of those who think that we should junk the entire concept. Absolutely. If international law keeps the world free of conflict, and if it defends the right and punishes tyrants, then it's absolutely a useful thing. But we should use international law as a guide, not as a straitjacket. And I fear that too often we have, with this government and with this Foreign Office establishment, a very, very narrow concept of international law and what international law requires. I mean, in actual fact, it's perfectly possible to construct, on the basis of international law, a very credible legal argument for why we absolutely should not be giving away the Chagos Islands and why we should take more offensive action to defend British sovereign territory in Cyprus against Iran. But we seem to have a very rigid, sort of almost, as I say, a straitjacketed approach to international law, which I think holds us back.
And that comes from the top.
I think it does, and perhaps it's because Starmer and Hermer are lawyers. But too often it's felt to me in my Foreign Office career, we are sort of focused on currying favour or pleasing the functionaries in the UN headquarters in New York, again, where I worked in a former posting. That should not be the sole basis upon which we conduct our foreign policy.
We've got our priorities wrong, in summary, is what you're saying.
We've got our priorities wrong, and we're hopelessly distracted. The Foreign Office is a department which is entrusted with guaranteeing and safeguarding the national security of this country. And frankly, it should not be focused on all of these peripheral issues if that comes at the expense of the core of the job. And the core of the job at the moment, from the world today and the, as I say, the impotent role we're playing in current events, it seems to me that the core of the job is being neglected.
Ameer, good to speak to you. People should go and read the piece in the Times today and thetimes.com. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's Ameer Kotehca there, who resigned yesterday from the Foreign Office, and that's really his exit interview on what he really thinks of the place.